Hello and welcome back to Trailblazer MTG. My name is Paul or Prop, and in this video we'll be taking a look at the round 2 match in the May Trailblazer League. First up though, as always, I wanted to talk through the changes I made to my deck in between rounds. I decided to make 3 changes. The includes I put into the deck are Insidious Fungus. This is a 1-drop creature that blocks fairly well and has a fairly good modality for what you can sacrifice it for. You can destroy an artifact or enchantment, and it can also allow you to draw a card and put an extra land into play tapped, which is very useful. It has function to disrupt, but also ramp if you've got nothing else to do with the mana and it's outmoded as a blocker, for example. Block, sack, things like that. So just a useful little piece there. I have also included these 2 instants. I have Growth Spiral, fairly classic card. Draw a card, put a land into play tapped, similar to what the Fungus does, but can hold up mana, do it on opponent's end step. Just another way to ramp, and if we have something like Field of the Dead or Nursery in play, it can be instant speed create a blocker, which is also very, very useful. And then the third card I added, Archdruid's Triumph, another modal card with multiple options. This one, I think I initially kept it out because it's 3 green pips. However, this deck is very green mana heavy, and I don't think getting to 3 green by like turn 3 or 4 is out of the question. This is also maybe a little better as you go further through the game, because one, it's a creature tutor or a land tutor. It can go get any land, so it's really good for going to find your Field of the Dead or your answers to like your Petrified Hamlet or things like that, which will put it directly into play too, which is very useful at instant speed. Can potentially create a blocker at instant speed. We also have a fight spell, another way of turning some of these creatures into removal. It's actually not even a fight, it's a punch. It just deals damage equal to its power, so if you have something with power greater than an opponent's toughness, you can just punch their creature. Really useful as a removal spell, which also preserves your creature. And finally, similar to the Insidious Fungus, exile target artifact or enchantment. Again, just a little bit of disruption. This one more of a niche. Obviously not everyone is running powerful artifacts or enchantments, but if there is one in play, both this and the Fungus are really good ways to get rid of them. It also adds instants in for any delirium, like for Traverse the Uvenwald, or mana values for collecting evidence. So those 2 things also not to be taken for granted. So in terms of what has been removed to make way for these, I removed the Gene Pollinator. I realize, as useful as this is, again, for Delirium being an artifact creature, I don't have a lot of permanents that are not doing much, right? I'm not creating clue tokens. I'm not putting. There's not too many cheap enchantments or static artifacts that I'm putting into play, and so this was, I think, for the mana ramp, it was also potentially slowing other parts of the game plan down. And on its own, it doesn't do all that much. And I think the Insidious Fungus is a slightly better 1/2 creature to have. Then also, I included the Planar Engineering, which is... I removed the Planar Engineering. This card, while as powerful as it is, taking 2 lands, turning them into 4 lands, it's 4 basics, which I do have plenty of basics in the deck, but this is just... It felt for 4 mana, it was not impactful enough if I didn't have a landfall enchantment or like the Nursery or the Field of the Dead in play. And if I did have those in play, this kind of felt like a win more situation. My deck is already fairly good at churning through, putting lands into play fairly regularly, getting them out of the graveyard, things like that. So I didn't necessarily think that this is needed. It's either not doing enough if you don't have the enablers in play, or you're probably already ahead of the curve winning the game. And again, 4 mana for this effect, probably just a little underwhelming. And then finally, the third cut was the Satyr Wayfinder. So in this case, the effect of putting milling yourself to put stuff in the graveyard to then bring a land back, fairly useful, but I think in terms of what this deck is trying to do, I think the Growth Spiral is probably a little more effective, a little more beneficial in the later game. Yes, the Growth Spiral doesn't provide a blocker on its own, but I just think this deck is not all in on a mill strategy, and so milling yourself for 4 just to potentially get a land back, I decided that wasn't quite where I wanted to be, and so that was why it made the cut, or why it was cut. So those are the changes for this round. So let's now talk about our opponent for this round. Our opponent for this round will be Monostor on Grixis Control. So some similarities to our previous opponent. So a lot of the creatures you see here were creatures that were in their deck. However, they also go a little bigger, being a little more control-y deck. They have the Emeritus of Ideation, the Meringue River Regent. Obviously, we already had the Riddler, Shieldred. We have Urtai, which is a counterspell creature. Deathrite for some of the value, but not a heavy. Obviously, 14 creatures, not a particularly creature-heavy deck. Where this deck will kind of live or die in terms of the matchup is their removal suite. So if we look at, we have Day of Black Sun, really good at removing all of our tokens we potentially generate. 2 black mana gets rid of every single token we've created. Blasphemous Edict, if we put enough tokens in play, this is a 1 black Wrath effect. Sacrificing, obviously we would need to get up to around 13 creatures in play, but that's actually not that crazy with something our deck can definitely do. We also have Grixis Command. This will deal with all the Field of the Dead zombies. We have other creatures that it will not deal with so well, but it has a potential to also be a blowout. And then Splatter Technique. Again, 4 damage to each creature and Planeswalker. Pretty much all of our creatures that we generate from landfall have 4 or less toughness. We obviously have some much bigger creatures that we can have in play. Things like Lumra with a lot of lands in play. Plenty of other options for really big creatures. But this, if we are going all in on the landfall token strategy, they have a lot of ways to disrupt that. We also see Treasure Cruise, we see Flow State, really powerful sorcery. The new Expressive Iteration, these 2 Strixhaven cards are kind of in conversation with each other, both really powerful card selection. Then at the instant, we have plenty of ways to disrupt. We have Flashback to replay counterspells or replay stuff from their replay some of their Wrath effects if they Wrath and we rebuild. There's also quite a lot of spot removal here. We have Go Through Throat, Feed the Cycle, Broadside, Colligan's Command, Prismari Command, Prismari Charm to a certain extent. This one deals better with Mana Dorks, but also still fairly useful. Also a reasonable amount of card selection, bounce spells, counter spells, a classic control suite of cards in the instant slot. At the artifacts, we have some Graveyard Hate between Ghost Vacuum, Soul Guide Lantern. We have Fable, We have a couple of the avatar legends. Obviously, this is some card selection and ramp, which turns into a very powerful creature that can create dragons, and again, this can create a lot of tokens, which can gum up the board, especially if our tokens are their tokens, and they can, for 20, which is a lot, even though it has waterbend, they can take an extra turn, which can really close the game out. We also have Roaring Furnace, which is another targeted removal spell that also later in the game at 5 mana can just be a draw engine. As far as the lands are concerned, we have classically Demolition Field, Field of Ruin. We also have Hall of the Storm Giants and Hive of the Eye Tyrant, which we need to be aware of from creature lands. Fountain Port, ways to generate tokens and sack them for card draw. This is actually an interesting idea that we could include in our deck. We're not super heavy on the tokens, but it is certainly a factor that we could consider. Odawara bounce land, Takanuma to get more options. Pit of Offerings, very interesting include here. This is a graveyard hate land that comes in tapped, and then you can it can also fix your mana if you exile the right colors of cards. Obviously, opponent looking to go a little slower. They've got both the temples, these tapped scry lands. I tend to avoid these. I find because they are not fetchable and the scry is not as powerful as the surveil, I tend to leave them out. But they certainly have value, especially in, again, this slower, more controlling matchup that my opponent's trying to do. I also noticed Den of the Bugbear. I also see 2 exclusive nightclubs here. I'm going to just clarify this with my opponent because that is not legal. I am guessing this is potentially just a mistake on the copy version that is on Moxfield, but I will reach out and just let them know. And if they do need to update it, they can do so. Change this out for another basic. So that's it. I think this is again a fairly interesting matchup. They do have some hand attack. They have plenty of ways to wrath the board if we get out ahead. There's some very big creatures, some ways to gain life. I think I'm going to really need to somewhat aggressively mulligan into something that can kind of explode and hopefully put enough pressure on and get them low enough that even an early wrath will be something that I can fight through, fight back, and win out. So other than that, we shall see. I think this will be an interesting matchup, and I will be right back with the start of the match. Don't go anywhere. Okay, and we are back with the start of the match. Let's see how we go with the die roll. Okay, we won the die roll. We'll get to play first. The deck that does allow us to ramp with the Ice Till and the Cabaretti gives us a chance to go get Field of the Dead fairly early, and we have the Ill-Timed Explosion for removal. Yeah, I think we can keep this. I think I'm going to lead with the Cabaretti. Go get a Forest. regular forest. I think I will... Ooh, interesting. So do I want to turn to Cub or turn to Map Reclaimer? I think I'm going to... Yeah, I'm going to Map Reclaimer this turn. Because if we don't draw a land next turn, we can use the map to go get a land. And if we do, we can Cub and... potentially Cub and Chocobo. No, not quite. We don't quite have the mana for Cub and Chocobo. Okay. Actually, was thinking and did not see what opponent did with their opt. Oh. I think with it being a scry, not the most important, but okay. Deathrite. Interesting. Okay, so we do have a land. I think in this case I am going to just play the land. I'm going to Badger Mole and interesting. So this is not an interaction I'm familiar with. I'm wondering if this dies, if it comes back as the Kazandu Mammoth, because that's the front side. But with the Deathrite Shaman, the death trigger can, if it's untapped, it can exile the Mammoth in response as long as they have green mana. So okay, exiling the land, that makes sense. So they get the EI, hopefully, I'm guessing they're looking for a land here to exile to hit their third land drop. Let's see what goes into exile. Yep, there we go. They have the Spire Bluff. One of the most powerful options for a turn 3 EI. Okay, so... right now we have just the 3 mana. There's no point in sacking a land. I think I'm going to play the Chocobo. It's probably going to eat a removal spell. Oh, we hit a land off of that, which is good. Can attack. So now we have Ice Till next turn, if we need it. Okay, so they'll probably take the Ice Till here, although with the Deathrite, the Ice Till is a little less powerful, especially with no current lands in the graveyard. We do have the Traverse for the next turn. We can Traverse to go get an island to go get to use the ill-timed explosion. I'm not sure whether we want to particularly do that. Yep, makes sense. Okay. Ooh, Ramanap is also pretty good. However, again, we don't have any lands in the graveyard, so I think I'm gonna do this. We'll go get a regular island. Okay, got the Scouring Storm Soul on top. think... Question is, do we wrath our own board to get the Scouring Storm Soul into the bin, or do we just wait? I think I'm just going to wait and attack here. Well, in that case, let's see. I tapped myself out of the ill-timed explosion. That was a mistake. Yeah, we're gonna end the turn here. Unless we get hand attacked, I'm hoping I can ill-time next turn. The Kazandu Valley attack was a mistake. That's on me. I think end of turn I will probably be expedition mapping. Yeah, I got more graveyard hate in play. I think in this case, I think what I'm just going to get, because I'm a little off from being able to Ren and 7 or Field of the Dead, so I think I'm going to go get a Hedge Maze. Okay. Play the Hedge Maze. I think, as useful as that would be, I think I can put that in the graveyard. I have 2 cards in hand. Chances are one of them is a counter spell, but let's see what happens. Okay. That probably means they don't. Ah, interesting. Ooh, so I am going to discard this and this. Obviously, the Scouring Storm Soul is going to get eaten by the Ghost Vacuum, but that's okay. Yeah. If they want to destroy this creature. Okay, so, interesting. First up, I'm going to actually play this. I don't think I want the Sullen Vision. Attack. They're probably going... Okay, they have not Urtide. So in that case, I think I just hold. I have a 3/3. I want to force them to use the Urtai to kill the mammoth, so that, yeah. That is perfectly fine. So now I can... So they can get themselves a Scouring Storm Soul and okay. Well, in that case... So green, red, blue, green, green, green. Interesting turn here. So I think my best option here is to cast Uro. I'll put this land into play. I will then play this Nissa. And this Llanowar Elf. So now they've ramped, but that's okay. This goes away next turn, but they are going to get +X and trample. I do need to find a way to get rid of this Titan, because otherwise they're going to be hitting me for lethal levels of damage. Because it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to... Badgermole as... no, Traveling Chocobo as 5. Let's see if they have a counter spell for this. Don't. Okay. I think that in that case, I am going to cast this world map. Just go get a basic. Be a snow-covered island. Play the snow-covered island. And then cast this Winter Night Stories. So I think I'm actually going to... Yeah, I'm going to discard this. I think keeping it would be somewhat greedy. So next turn I can Dragon back Assault after... Okay. So they're hitting me for 11 in the air, which is fine. I can certain, unless they have a pump spell, which I don't believe this deck is running any pump spells. I can take 11. Next turn I will Dragon back. Okay. Very nice. I believe I will. If the Llanowar Elf survives, I will Spelunking and Dragonback Assault. Okay. Interesting. I think Tireless Tracker is probably a better option than... Let's see. They would need a 1-mana counterspell. Okay. So now I'm going to play this Tireless Tracker. And so now I can double block the Emeritus with my dragons if I need to. The obviously revealed cards, there's no threat there. They are able to re-prepare the Emeritus on attacks with the 12 cards in their graveyard, but the flow state's a good sign. It probably means that they're digging for an answer, because if they had a way to get rid of one of the dragons, there's very little instant speed ways to put lands in play for 1 mana. So one land in the bin for the Scouring Storm Soul. Okay, so they found... one answer. So I think there's not much I can do to prevent them from preparing, getting another 3 cards. If I take this damage, I will not be able to fetch, so I'm going to fetch now. I'm going to get this Thundering Falls. Probably don't want this Nissa. I will be blocking here. Very nice way to finish it. That is very cute. That's awesome. Alright, very interesting match. Yeah, I think obviously we were in with a shot there, but the Ancestral Recall lethal on your opponent is always a really cool way to finish a match, especially with the Shieldred, so I appreciate that. Okay, So we don't really have anything here. We don't do anything until turn 3. Gives opponent plenty of time to set up and find counter spells. So I think we have to mulligan this hand. This it can definitely keep. I think I'll put. I'm gonna put this druid class back. So we're gonna play Beseiju, play this Elvish Mystic. Let's see what we draw. Okay, they get rid of the Cobra. So we are going to name I'm going to go for Demolition Field. And then I will yeah, I'll play the Nissa. I don't need the colors and I don't have extra lands in hand right now, so... Well, maybe I do need the colors. Okay, let's attack with the Nissa. They probably have a counter spell. But I don't know whether they're going to want to counter this. They probably will. I mean, that's what I'm probably expecting. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's see whether they have another counter spell. But well, I think first I'm going to attack with Nissa. And play this Underground Mortuary. I don't think I want that on top. Add blue and attempt to resolve this Uro. We'll see if they have another counterspell in hand. I imagine they do if they've had culled up 2 mana. No, but they've Fairy Mastermind, which is also a good one versus the Uro. Okay, and then we can Deathrite. So if we draw a land, any land, no, we need an untapped land because we don't have a Deathrite, a land for Deathrite in the bin. Okay, they got rid of the Deathrite, they got rid of the Nissa. Okay. Yep. Don't have much to do other than attack. I need to get to 6 for Lumra to get active. And we don't have any blue, so it's not looking too good for you, boy. Yeah. Yep. Back-to-back counterspells. Really tough, obviously. Or rather, a counterspell into a removal spell. Well, that is... that is a way to get blue mana. I'm actually going to do this right now. If they have a Tashadas Tidebinder, then so be it. Ah, One Shitong, okay. think I'm actually going to get a Fable Passage. Play this Fable Passage. And go get an island. So the question is, so I have 5 lands, which does not make for a good Scapeshift, and I think next turn I'm just going to need to Lumra. Assuming I survive. This is 9 damage coming in the air. So we'll see. Opponent has infinite cards in hand. Casting Flow State, which either means they think they're very far ahead, which they are, or so they're probably going to take the Uro. If they take the lands, okay. So what I'm hoping to do is have Lumra Resolve hit enough lands to get me into Field of the Dead range, and then I can solve the equation for Scapeshift. Okay. The problem is this means that they can tap down my blocker and kill me in the air. Which means I need to hold up. Do I have anything in my at sorcery speed, instant or sorcery speed, that can deal with the Lockmail or the Wan Shitong? I don't think so. They can tap one of my creatures and draw a card, make this a 4/5. Yeah, I don't think I have any answer here. Because if I do this, I can't Otawara. If I do this, I can't do anything against the Lockmare. Well, nothing in my hand is going to save me. My best opportunity is to cast this Solve. I have 3 mana available. Actually, I do have an ill-timed explosion. This is, and I can discard this, which will wrath their board. So I did have an answer, but opponent has 3,000 cards in hand and plenty of mana options. So, and my final card in hand is a basic land or a fight spell. Oh, and they're going to get more. Okay. 11 cards in hand. Interesting Fable. They are tapped out fairly low. They only have the 1 mana. If I draw Scapeshift, I did not draw Scapeshift. I'll play this because, again, if I draw Scapeshift, I've got a chance. For now, I'm just going to have to pass it back. Oh, I'm dead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, not quite. If they have an untapped land, I'm dead. Okay, I am... Yeah, I am fully dead. Okay. Unfortunate, but such as it goes. I think that was really interesting games, and there were definitely moments where it could have gone either way. Obviously, opponent had good removal and counter spells at the right time, which is what the control deck can do. But with that, I will be right back with a quick break, post-match breakdown. Okay, here we are back at the deck screen. So I was talking with my opponent and after the match a little, and they asked why I held on to Wrenn and 7 for so long. And I think the only real turn I had an option to play the Wrenn and 7 before I had to hold it for so long was the turn I decided to Ill-Timed Explosion. They had 4 open mana. They'd countered a couple of things, or they'd had a counter spell. So I wanted to. Of the 2, I was less pressed about the Ill-Timed Explosion being countered, and if it wasn't countered, I was able to wrath the board. I would have a 3/3. I had ways to get lands in play, which would have allowed me to put pressure on with the 5/5. Obviously, they had a Fading Hope, which bounced the Urtai back to their hand, which meant I needed to draw that out before I could think about playing Wrenn and 7. By the time I'd drawn that out, they'd been able to pop the Ghost Vacuum, which meant they had a potentially huge amount of pressure in the air a couple of turns later with the Titan activation. And so at that point, my plan was to preserve as much life as possible by casting the Uro. So my plan changed to that. Possibly, if I'd been able to play the Wrenn and 7, things might have gone slightly differently, although in retrospect, I play the Wrenn and 7, the best option I have is to create the token with reach, which they are able to bounce immediately with the Fading Hope. I'm tapped out. Wrenn and 7 comes down with 5 loyalty. I would have gone down to 2 to get the Tree Folk in play. They bounce the Tree Folk, they kill Wrenn and 7. That does mean that the next turn when I'm able to Ill-Timed Explosion, the Ill-Timed Explosion resolves, and I'm able to kill to wrath the board and have a 3/3 because they don't have the bounce spell in hand. But I think, all in all, I don't think I made the incorrect decision. Obviously, having them being able to get to Emeritus of Ideation mana with the Ancestral Recall, obviously the Titan helped a lot with that. Not much I could do. Didn't get any of my artifact removal. And then obviously drawing into the first Ancestral Recall drew them potentially into the Shieldred, and the second one was able to use the Shieldred's ability to kill me. Like, honestly, I cannot even be mad about that finish. They do say it's the second or the third cast of Ancestral Recall that wins the match. In this case, it was literal. They Shieldred into Ancestral Recall, and they definitely killed me. In Game 2, again, I think I was really close to turning the corner and getting into that match. The life totals were fairly close. Being able to go get the Ill-Timed Explosion off the solve the equation was obviously took me a while to think of that line and realize that I had the mana to do that with the Odawara in hand, and having the Lumra in hand to be able to get rid of the Wanshitong. However, I think, as my opponent also said as we were talking after the match, the amount of cards they got off the Wanshitong with me continually searching my library was huge. They were able to get a huge amount of card advantage from that, and really just overwhelmed me with that card advantage. But honestly, once I'd wrapped the board, I did not really draw into any other action. I just had the Bushwhack in hand, and they obviously had the creature land, which they were able to get enough lands to boot up and push for lethal. So I died to an Ancestral Recall to the face, which is very funny, and I died to a land, which is kind of poetic justice, I think, for a deck like this. So at the end of week 2, I'm 0-2. I don't think my deck performed poorly. I don't think I made poor decisions. I think, this was a fairly tough matchup. This deck is combo E, but it's not the fastest combo in the world, and that can be very disrupted by a good control deck, which is what my opponent is playing. So with that, we'll see how we go into next week. I'll see if I want to make any further changes to the deck. But yeah, I'll be back next week with round 3 with a new opponent in the O2 bracket, and we'll see how it goes. But until then, if you like the video, please hit the like button. If you're enjoying this content overall, please subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications. It means a lot. And in the comments, let me know, would you have cast the Renin 7 or the Ill-Timed Explosion when I had the mana for either in game 1? I think it'd be an interesting discussion to have. And with that, I'm going to end the video. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful day.